For every action there is an equal and opposite reaction is something that has been stated many times. Usually it has to do with physics and physical and with matter and energy. But I think it also is very true in human attitudes and society. And what happens in our society is that for every action, for every bit of knowledge that we gain, there's going to be a backlash saying, no, it's not true. We have to recognize that this is a part, somehow a part of the whole process, an inevitable, or seemingly inevitable in our society, inevitable part of the process of ideas, is that no matter what knowledge and information comes out, there's going to be a resistance to that information and knowledge by a large portion, if not the majority. Usually the majority of the society is going to react against and reject any new knowledge or information, no matter how. The more true and the more accurate that it is, the more fierce the opposition is going to be to it. That's something to keep in mind. So, here's the example of evolution. People found out after basically millions of years of ignorance about our own origins, the pieces of the puzzle started to come together, and we started to realize, aha, here we can see that we're all related to other animals, that there is a connection, and there is an obvious, clear path from one form to another, a flow of forms constantly changing, evolving. And so there's this backlash of all the people that don't want to have to believe this, don't want to have to hear it. And they say, oh no, okay, it's a lie. What they're saying, it's a lie. Evolution's a lie. So people believed that the earth was flat for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, probably since forever. And then somebody comes along and says, you know what, here's evidence that the earth is not flat, it's a sphere. Well, there's a huge segment, the majority of the population isn't ready to accept that information, so they reject it and they say it's a lie. This happens everywhere. Global warming was something that was known and predicted about at least 40 years ago, probably since before I was born, but I know that when I was in 4th grade, we were shown a film strip in school explaining about what would happen if we didn't drastically change our pattern of burning gasoline, and the increasing, not only the rates that we were going at that time, but the accelerating rates of the population even increasing and generating more, burning more gasoline than we even were at that time. There was predictions that were made that this was going to melt the glaciers. Florida and Louisiana and parts of California were going to be submerged in a rising ocean levels. But nobody wanted to listen, and anyhow, mostly they were just showing film strips to 4th graders, but they weren't telling the general population. It wasn't for like another 12 years or so that this information started to be broadcast in the general media at all. And eventually it becomes such a recognized fact, and the evidence is mounting to show that these predictions were accurate. And bit by bit, here's the temperatures rising, here's the glaciers melting, here's the oceans rising, here's lower sea level, places at lower sea level being submerged, islands disappearing, small islands disappearing into the ocean. All the evidence is piling up as could and was predicted. All the people that don't want to believe it stand there with their arms folded and say, nope, it's not true, it's not happening. They're in denial. So it's not a, so first you predict what's going to happen, which anybody with their eyes open and their minds with the wires attached so that they can put two and two together and see connections with things. You can see this is where we're headed. There's no question about it. Here you look at a boat going down a river and there's a big waterfall and the boat's headed towards the waterfall. You know what's going to happen. Unless somebody gets in there and pulls out the oars and starts rowing like mad to get upstream or to get to one of the sides of the river, you know that boat's going to go over the waterfall. But you try telling people that don't want to believe it or hear it, you know what? That boat's going to go over the waterfall. They say, no evidence to support that. No, you're way off base, buddy. No evidence to support that. And then the boat approaches the waterfall, and then it starts accelerating, and it's going over the water, and then the boat's going over the waterfall. And even as it's going over the waterfall, they say, oh, no, it's all a lie, it's untrue. No, there's no boat going over the waterfall. No. And or then when they finally completely run out of any ability to do that at all, and they're forced to acknowledge, yep, the boat's going over the waterfall. And you say, well, I told you that's going to happen. Then they say, oh, it's very, so you're rubbing it now. You're saying I told you so, huh? So now you gotta rub it in and say I told you. Yeah, well, yeah. I tried telling you and you wouldn't listen. And then they say, oh, well, hindsight is 20/20. Sure, you can see it now. Wait a second. When I said it ahead of time, you wouldn't listen. Now, when it's undeniable. Now you just criticize me for pointing out that I did say it ahead of time. And that's the mentality of backlash reactionaryism. There's always when there's a tide coming in, there's always going to be this undertow of the ebb tide flowing out. For every action there's an equal and opposite reaction, sometimes maybe more than equal. Maybe the reaction is or maybe it is equal, but sometimes it feels like it's unequal. Sometimes it feels like the reaction is overpowering, overwhelming of the action that it's reacting to. So things like global warming, people don't want to hear it. They want to say it's not true, deny it's happening. Just like, oh, the boat's not going over the waterfall, and then when they find it does, they say, oh, why didn't somebody tell us? That's exactly what these people do. Then after constantly denying and saying you're lying and saying you're full of crap, you shouldn't, why are you even saying this? Then when it becomes inevitable, then they say, oh, why didn't you warn us? Why didn't you try to tell us? Well, we did. Overpopulation. The world is at least 10 times vastly overpopulated. There's just no reason for 7 billion people on this planet. There's no reason for more than 1 billion people at most. What is it that all these billions of people are actually accomplishing of any value anyhow? The only thing that we're doing is that we're destroying all the other species on the planet. That's all that we're doing. Destroying them and destroying the land itself. Melting the glaciers, submerging the land, draining the water table, and an overpopulation. So what we have is in our society that there's people coming out saying, oh no, it's all a lie. Overpopulation, that's a lie. Scarcity of resources, that's a lie. We underpopulated, we need more people. It's to make celebrities out of these people having 20 children and saying, oh, I have 20 children, but I wish I could have 10 times as many. So I'm going to freeze my ovaries so that I can continue having babies for 100 years. And I want to encourage all my babies to have dozens of babies. Because there has to be this reactionary backlash to the knowledge that the world is, that we're vastly overpopulated, by these deniers who are saying, oh no, it's not true, I don't want to hear it. We have to make more babies. And then they have to promote glamorized it, have a television show about teen mothers, you know. Have 14, 15, 16-year-old girls getting pregnant and presenting this as a normal attitude of how girls should perceive their lives. Oh, I get pregnant at 15, you know, or 14, I have a baby at 15. That's normal because I see it on TV. So, sure, that's no problem being a single mother in high school. Don't worry about how we're gonna Lady Madonna. Children at your feet. Make ends meet. I don't know how you wonder how you manage to make ends meet. Who pays the rent? You know, that was over 40 years ago, 45 years ago. Paul McCartney wrote Lady Madonna, and even the youngest teen mothers from that time are now grandmothers. But the reality continues that people think, oh, you know, I can get pregnant at 15. Don't worry about it. The government, you know, I can get on welfare. Somebody's going to support my children or support me and my children while I go to school or something, or while I work at McDonald's. It's ridiculous. And yet the same people who are going to for the most part, who are going to support this, the teen mother stuff, I don't know. So, the same people who are, it seems to me, the same people who are so against welfare, and this so terrible welfare mothers, are the same people. What's this microphone doing? Shit. Fuck this. I guess the microphone's telling me to shut up. I'm gonna stop talking.